I'm very pleased to say the Ukrainian MP Lesia Vasylenko joins us now. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for being here in person as well and making the time out of your busy schedule to be on the programme. Why are you in the UK?
Essentially, next week in the UK will be dedicated to Ukraine Recovery Conference. It's one of those conferences happening annually this time and dedicated to putting together the resources necessary to rebuild the country as the Ukrainians fight, but also as we expect for victory to be just there somewhere around the corner. We will need to have the country staying strong. We will need a lot of reconstruction to be done.
Reconstruction, it almost doesn't get to just what is needed in Ukraine. I mean, what is the state of Ukraine now?
It's a war zone, and everyone must be aware of this. Today, as the UK and the world celebrates Father's Day, in Ukraine, millions of children are separated from their fathers who are either fighting on the front line, or the Ukrainian children are outside in countries like the UK seeking refuge while their fathers remain ready for battle in Ukraine. So this is just an understanding on a pure human personal level. On a country level, the World Bank has estimated today that some 400,000 billion US dollars will be needed to recover, reconstruct the country as is now. But of course, the fighting continues, the shelling continues on a daily and nightly basis, courtesy of Russia, and all of that causes havoc, all of that causes mass destruction to the critical infrastructure needed for the country to run, needed for communities to live. And in terms of, again, practical matters, we're talking about hospitals being destroyed, schools being destroyed. Roads are the biggest challenge right now because some 25,000 kilometers of roads need to be rebuilt as is right now for communities to continue to function properly.
It's staggering just to hear you. I mean, we know this, but it is staggering just to hear you spell it out again. What's the latest situation on the ground?
On the ground, the counteroffensive is happening, the fighting is happening, it's intense. Every time that Ukraine gets an upper hand in the war zone, in the fighting zone, in the east and southeastern Ukraine, Russia agonizes and hence launches missiles and drones on the peaceful cities in the western Ukraine and especially on Kiev, the capital. So the whole country is in a very tense kind of situation right now, because whether you are fighting and living in the combat zones, or you are living in Kiev, or you are living in western Ukraine, you are still countering Russia's aggression.
And of course, you know, you were talking a bit about Father's Day and the personal cost of Ukrainians and the war. And of course, your own life has been completely uprooted by the war. There's that famous picture of you with a gun. I'm sure it's not an image that you ever expected to see.
No, that was the first day of the war, definitely not. But it was the reality. It was the choice we were given, and we were told your main task is to stay alive and not to be taken hostage. And you know, you're giving this gun, and then you're told, okay, go ahead and learn how to use it. Absolutely insane. It's, again, that picture is almost from a different life. And I think that in this 1.5 years, many Ukrainians, all Ukrainians, have completely turned their lives around and have lived through things that they would have never expected to be their reality.
So that's that you say it's like a different life. I mean, even then, when you're armed, you probably had no idea what was going to come.
No idea. And that's the worst about any war, that you don't know what will happen in the next hour, let alone in the next day.
You're separated from your family, like many other people in Ukraine. How old are your children?
2, 8 and 9.
I mean, that must be, I can't even put into words, it must be incredibly difficult.
It's not an ideal situation, but I know that my children are safe. I know that they're alive, that they're getting an education, they're getting the best childhood that I can provide to them right now, and that they are out of the war zone. Me as a mother having the resources to do that, I think this is my responsibility. However, I am also very much aware of the many Ukrainian families who have no resources, who have no possibility to take their children out of the war zones. And it is with these families that my thoughts are every day and that my heart is with. And it is for them that I try to make the most of international engagements, to keep the world interested, to keep the world talking, and to keep the international community helping Ukraine.
Because this is a war that isn't just being fought by the people on the front line. It's a war that is being fought with families and with children as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Putin does not distinguish between military targets and civilian targets. He hits anywhere to inflict fear, to inflict terror on the population, to disturb normal processes of livelihood. The last attack, massive attack on the Kakhovka Dam, left hundreds of thousands without drinking water in an extremely hot summer, has left the area depleted and has created an environmental disaster, basically amounting to an ecocide, which, yes, does affect the Ukrainians already right here, right now, but will have long-term impacts on the world, on climate change, on biodiversity, creating issues that we will have to deal with for decades and decades to come.
And what would you say to people who may be experiencing Ukraine fatigue? Like in the UK, for example, they have a difficult economic situation. It's the same globally. What would your message be?
Look, first of all, it's normal. This escalation has been going on for 1.5 years. To say that we're not tired in Ukraine would be a lie, because we are. But the fact is we don't have any other choice than to wake up every day, get over this tiredness, and continue fighting and continue standing. And as Ukraine stands, that means that Poland stands, that means that Romania, Slovakia, all those other countries surrounding Ukraine stand. Because if Ukraine falls, this will be a green flag for Putin to carry on with his aggression and his imperialistic expansion. And essentially, the UK and any other country helping Ukraine, they are helping fight off these imperialistic, absolutely sick dreams of a power-crazed dictator. That's something to remember, and it's something to fight that fatigue off with.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to have you here in the studio. You know, often speak to you from Ukraine, so it's been lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.